up and down the West Coast and Southern California. Where do you want to start? Because we got a lot to talk about.
There's so much going on, and right now, back here in San Diego, we are fired up for the Padres. We're going into the playoffs. This is the first time we've been in the playoffs 2020 was great, but it's been since 2006, right? Since we were in the playoffs legit. So we're all looking forward to the games in New York.
I give the Padres a lot of credit. They grinded through a lot of adversity, starting with the Fernando Tatis situation, John, and then you add into that a wide variety of injuries, a beleaguered pitching staff. But right now they seem to be hitting on all cylinders as they open the series with the New York Mets. Now, piece of history, John. The Padres are 3-14 in postseason baseball dating back to 2006. That's not much of a track record. They're going to have their hands full, but they're facing a New York Mets team that did not finish the season on an upbeat note. They got their brains blown out in a must-win series against the Atlanta Braves. The Mets fell out of first place into second place. So we've got a Padre team that seems to have put it all back together. They got a Mets team, although they're playing at home at Citi Field, which to me has to be a real positive. This is going to be an enormous pick'em series. Now let's start first of all with the Padres. Yu Darvish gets game one start. This guy's had a spectacular season. 16 wins on the year. Phenomenal from the All-Star break on, John. His postseason career record, though, in the playoffs is only 2-5. His ERA in the playoffs is 5.18. So he's gotten banged around a little bit in postseason play. But here's a really interesting statistic. I went back and researched this. The guys that are going to start in the 3 playoff games for the Padres in New York all have better records on the road this year than they do at Petco Park. Go figure that one out. Yu Darvish, 9-3 on the road, 3.50 ERA away from home. Pretty impressive. Blake Snell, who's been erratic, he's up, he's down, he's a bit of an enigma, but he's finished really upbeat. Blake Snell on the road, 4-2 this season, with a 3.06 earned run average. You're going to have to trust him at Citi Field. And then Joe Musgrove, who started like a house of fire, cooled off, didn't get any run support at all. Joe Musgrove is 7-3 on the road this season with a 3.06 ERA away from Petco Park. So if I'm giving a ball to guys, these are 3 proven guys on the road that I think are going to have some success. Now, Musgrove, there's a weird statistic. As good as Joe has been, as competitive as he's been, John, Joe Musgrove has won only 2 of his last 20 starts, dating back to just before the All-Star game. He's pitched in a lot of bad luck. It looks like the bullpen
starts. He's been really good. The offense didn't score until late, when he was done. So he seems like he's got the mojo back.
I will say this. The bullpen looks as if it's come back together. Josh Hader has had more really dominant outings than an odd bad outing in the last 3 to 4 weeks. The setup guys, for the first time in a while, all look like they're completely healthy, whether that's Nick Martinez, whether that's Robert Suarez, whether it's the guys that counted on to give them the 6th and 7th innings to get them to the 9th. It's tough, though, to have grinded through 162 games, get on a plane, have one off day, and then have to go face the New York Mets. Now, those are positive numbers. We talked about the pitchers. My biggest concern, and I'll let you respond after I get done throwing these numbers at you, the batting order. Manny Machado, I think, has had an MVP-type season. However, Manny, in the last couple of weeks of this grind, hitting only .234. Juan Soto hitting .198. Period, exclamation point. Just not the same player that he was in Washington. Josh Bell's been in and out of the lineup. Josh Bell in the heat of this pennant race to get him to the wild card spot, hitting only .162. And Trent Grisham is MIA. At one point this past weekend, he was hitting .080. Will Myers is hitting better. Kim, I think, has been pretty selective and I think successful. Cronenworth's season-long batting average isn't very good, but his last month or so has been pretty productive. And I don't know what they got behind home plate in terms of offense. I'm really concerned. How are they going to score runs? Because in all honesty, John, have not scored a lot of runs. So your comments on the bats.
Well, first of all, the team overall plays better on the road, right? It's not just the pitching, but the hitting as well. I think the Padres have a winning record against the Mets. My son was actually in New York over the summer with his buddies, and they went and saw the game, one of the 3 games at Citi Field, and the Padres looked great. So can we bring back the magic? You remember that moment, like, I don't know, it was like 7 years ago when Justin Upton hit the home run in the rain, and it was like a magical time when the Padres won it all, at least in that one game. Maybe we can kind of recapture that. And, I think this series is winnable for the Padres, even though they're on the road. They have a tough assignment. I mean, Soto hits really well off of deGrom. The Padres beat Scherzer earlier this year. I mean, this is going to be a great competitive series.
I think the intangible thing, if a starter gets in trouble, I think the Padres, because of the extra starters they have, can go to the bullpen and hope that Sean Manaea will give them a good outing, filling innings if somebody struggles right out of the gate. Manaea's had back-to-back pretty good starts after they took him out of the rotation and gave him extra rest. There is a bit of an issue with Mike Clevenger. He's now on the injured list. They don't know whether or not he's got COVID. He did not join the team on the trip to New York. He's passed one COVID test. He must pass a second. But he could be a wild card in this whole thing in terms of long relief. So I think it's right there for the Padres, but look who they're facing. All right. Let's talk about the Mets.
Okay.
This Mets team is loaded. Yes, Scherzer has had some ups and downs physically, but come postseason, we know track record Max Scherzer. Jacob deGrom has pitched really well since coming off nearly a year's layoff for all the arm problems. Very dangerous guy. Lost in the conversation is the Mets pitcher they got from the Oakland Athletics, Chris Bassett. I think he's got 15 wins on the season.
Wow.
And then waiting in the wings, there's Carlos Carrasco, veteran guy, ex-Cleveland Indian guy. Brings some real credentials there. And I haven't mentioned Taijuan Walker, former Seattle Mariner, who's just a really feisty competitor. And, of course, they've got Diaz out of the bullpen, which is superb. Now, in terms of the batting order for the Mets, Jeff McNeil just won the National League batting championship. Hit .326, kind of an anonymous .326, John, but he hit very well. They got Peter Alonso, 40 home runs, .270 batting average. The unsung hero in their batting order and a dangerous guy is their second baseman who came from Cleveland. And I think that Francisco Lindor, he can hit home runs. He does hit for average. He does put the ball in play. So I think the Mets are a pretty good lineup. Starling Marte's been hurt. I don't know whether he's going to be ready to play in the Friday night game. But that guy hit .297, and he makes things happen at the top of the batting order. So to me, it's a really intriguing New York Mets team. I think a very good New York Mets team. And I think it's a flip the coin in the air series. I don't know who's going to win this one. I am really concerned about the Padres' lack of runs, but the Mets have to be a little bit concerned about maybe their starting pitching with starters 1 and 2. It's a best-of-3 series. The guy that wins game 1 puts himself into the driver's seat. John, I'm flipping the coin. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, I got to root for the Padres, right? And I think they have a legit shot. I mean, it's my heart and my head saying both. And then even deGrom. I mean, how long has he been off the injured list? I mean, he still isn't 100% dependable deGrom, is he?
He's not vintage deGrom, but deGrom has had some really good outings. So it will be fun. They play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if there is a third game.